Come on. Hold on. Stop.
Hey, Congressman Adam Smith from Washington, you spent 45 minutes on breaking points.
Or that
Let me ask you this.
Let me finish my question, please.
You took hits from Krystal Ball on live camera.
And I don't think you understand how difficult that is.
Credit where it's due. You didn't flinch, but you failed the test. Not her test. You failed the test that actually matters. And here's the test. Any Democrat who sits down with Krystal Ball has to address who she is before addressing what she's asking. And that's what you didn't do. You walked onto the set of her show Breaking Points and treated her like a neutral interviewer instead of what she actually is.
Sorely disappointed.
Which is this.
I have been promised a fascist authoritarian coup for 4 years now, and I'm getting a little impatient, waiting to see how it all goes down.
That's right. That's her
I was told
in
this election wouldn't even happen.
November of 2020. 2 months before the January 6th insurrection,
Scary words like disinformation and
downplaying the threat that Trump was going to instigate a coup,
to rob poor innocent Joe
right?
Biden of his rightful victory.
Mocking the Democrats who were sounding the alarm. She was catastrophically wrong, and she's never once gone back on camera to reckon with that. And that's not a gotcha. That's the resume of the woman cross-examining you.
Okay. So hold on. Let me hold you to account again.
Yeah.
On your loyalty to the Democratic Party. And this isn't just one clip. This is a 7-year pattern. In December 2021, Ball co-hosted a live stream to free Julian Assange. Remember him?
The Obama administration, they hated Julian Assange.
The Kremlin maggot, alongside Kremlin mouthpiece Katie Halper, Marianne Williamson, as well as her now husband Kyle Kulinski.
Hillary's smearing of Tulsi as a Russian asset has given Tulsi's campaign a needed boost.
Back in 2019, when Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, remember them? Were running as Democrats for president. Ball called anyone raising concerns about either of them part of an establishment smear campaign. She said it took real courage for Tulsi Gabbard to break from the party line. She was defending the same instincts that eventually walked Gabbard out of the Democratic Party and into the job of Trump's National Director of Intelligence.
Well, let me ask you this.
Hold on. Aren't you effectively doing the work of the Republicans?
That is the through line, Congressman. Every time the establishment turns out to be right, Krystal Ball turns out to be running interference for the people working against us.
There's no better gifts in this world than a book about Hitler. So thank you so much.
Yes, right. Her Breaking Points co-host is this delightful gentleman here, Saagar Enjeti, who gifted Lex Friedman the Hitler book that they were both almost orgasmic about on that show. Saagar cut his teeth at Tucker Carlson's Daily Caller. And Krystal's husband, Kyle Kulinski, co-hosts a separate weekly show with his wife called Krystal, Kyle, and Friends. Now, between the three of them and their guest list, those platforms have spent years laundering the same both sides of the real enemy framing that tells Democratic voters not to trust their own party. And it worked on the biggest audience in podcasting. In 2021 and again in 2023, Ball and Enjeti sat down with Joe Rogan.
I also buy into the Rogan philosophy.
And they praised him.
You guys do great. You do great work.
He praised them. And
because,
that's the same Joe Rogan who endorsed Donald Trump on the eve of the 2024 election and sent incel men into the voting booth for the first time to ensure Kamala Harris's defeat.
That Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that good?
Again, Krystal Ball is a big fan of his work.
You're not always on the left.
Then, I am on the left. I'm a Bernie Sanders leftist.
A Bernie Sanders leftist who loves the guy who endorsed Trump, has no comment on all his access to the White House. And none of that erases the fact that Krystal Ball's platform helped normalize him to a left-leaning audience for years before any of it.
And I don't think you understand how difficult that is.
So, Congressman Adam Smith and every Democrat considering an interview with Krystal Ball, please take note of how much Krystal admires Joe Rogan, the leader of the manosphere, the Trump endorser, and the Bernie ally whose net worth is estimated at around $250 million.
I did not see it coming.
Rogan also happens to be close friends with a man named Elon Musk.
It's classic.
Ever heard of him?
People will gobble anything down.
Yeah. Their friendship is one of the most visible alliances in media today. Yet Krystal Ball, whose entire brand is exposing the corruption of the billionaire class and championing working people, has never seemed troubled by Rogan's very public friendship with the world's richest man. Why isn't that relationship worthy of scrutiny? Musk sat in the front row with the tech billionaire broligarchy at Trump's second inauguration, and Rogan was there too.
Come on, hold on, stop.
So, Congressman Smith, and to any Democrat still lining up to take a seat on Breaking Points, hear me out. When you sit across from Krystal Ball and answer her like she's a neutral or credible journalist, you've already lost. Not the argument, but the war. Because this isn't an interview. It's an information war, and you just walked into it unarmed. You're talking to a woman who built a brand co-hosting with Tucker Carlson protégé, Saagar Enjeti, who agrees with him 80-90% of the time, and who never, ever shares her harshest fire for Republicans. It's always the Congressional Black Caucus. It's always the pluralist coalition that built this party from the ground up.
Come on, hold on, stop.
This has to stop being about whether you can survive 45 minutes of questions from a hostile journalist. It has to be about whether you understand what you're sitting across from. Because until Democrats walk on to her set or any similar set and say who the host is before they answer what the host is asking, you're going to keep losing the room before you say your first word. And ask yourself something else, Congressman. Who actually funds these shows? Nobody seems to know. Nobody in the mainstream press seems all that curious to find out. And when a media operation spends this much energy weakening the Democratic coalition specifically, and this little energy on the party actually dismantling democratic institutions, you're allowed to wonder why. You're allowed to ask whether that's an accident or something somebody's paying for. Now, I'm not telling you the answer. I don't know it. What I am telling you is that nobody has asked the question to Krystal Ball or any similar populist leftist, and it's time somebody did.
All right, a quick message to my friends on the far left. Quit pooping in the Kool-Aid bowl and telling us that the turds are ice cubes.
Kudos to Van Jones for finally saying out loud what I've been trying to say, screaming into the digital void for 6 years. And what a lot of us have been saying, people I've been learning from. It's a little maddening, honestly, watching Van Jones get all the credit for saying what a whole community of us on Blue Sky have been screaming into the void about for years. But fine, if that's what it takes for the message to land, great. And here's my real question. Why hasn't a single sane Democratic entrepreneur built a funding apparatus for people like us, the pluralists, the ones actually trying to hold this coalition together instead of profiting off tearing it apart?
We got to figure it out. It doesn't matter to me. I'm rich, okay?
If the Pod Johns and the Hassan Pikers of the world can get rich off performing their entitlement, shouldn't there be a lane for the rest of us exposing, researching this existential threat to the Democratic Party as well? And I know how it sounds, another white guy making another case, but almost every other white voice who claims to be pro-democracy or anti-fascist, have you noticed, ends up running cover for actual Nazis in Maine or excusing millionaire Twitch leftists in LA.
Suck my fucking
I think it's really depressing that the extremists seem to get to spend a whole lot of their time and energy creating content that is boosted by the algorithm, but those of us with far more concern about the actual Democratic coalition are left going broke trying to do this. So yeah, if you can, lend a hand, Subscribe, like, share, and if at all possible, donate. Thank you.